Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are committed to being your greatest possible self, if you're committed to having a business that works for you, getting more customers to pay you more money more often, you definitely want to check out Employee Escape Plan. And that's www.employeeescapeplan.com. This man, Joe Nicasio, who's also going to be on the show today, is rocking it, helping business owners get clear on what's missing, what's broken in their business, troubleshooting, fixing it, and having them win. Or if you're employed, escape your soul-sucking job and get into a job that you actually love, a career, a passion, where you actually make the difference in people's lives. Again, www.employeeescapeplan.com. For the man of the hour, Chris Wise. At the age of 12, Chris Wise started his first business. At the age of 19, he purchased his first piece of real estate and was a millionaire by age 21. He has co-authored 3 books with top business leaders such as Brian Tracy and Ziglar. In his 25-plus years of business experience, he has built and sold 2 successful companies. In 2013, Chris faced his most challenging adventure to date, prison. Chris will read before your interview begins. Just kidding. He chose to go through prison, not like everyone else, but in the most kind and loving way. In doing so, he transformed the prison system and also disrupted it. As the CEO of Wise Profits, a business consulting firm, and a coach and a mentor to alpha males, he now shares his wisdom from 25-plus years of business experience and his deep wisdom gained from 19 months in federal prison. Chris, you ready to rock this? Awesome, dude. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share your valuable wisdom, experience, and insight on life with our audience, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks it's great to be here with you guys. You know, prison was life-changing. It was the most difficult thing that I ever went through. And, my topic today is the evolved alpha male. And prior to going into prison, I was this driven, ambitious, controlling alpha male that had created an amazing life, but had done it from a place of control. And what's interesting is, so around the age of 18, I had really got into a lot of personal development, positive mental attitude stuff, and just went full force into it. And it's all great stuff, but this is this is maybe a huge paradigm shift, what I'm about to share with you for some people. What I realized is that, as I was learning about the whole positive mental attitude, that I actually had to be in control of my thoughts, right? Because anytime I would have negative thoughts, it's like, no, it's not okay to have negative thoughts. I need to stay positive. I can't say the words but or can't or try or keep positive thoughts, right? So then I exerted so much control over my thinking. And then there was the whole emotion. I learned about, my emotional state. I gotta, be in powerful states all the time. And if I'm not in a powerful emotional state, then that's not going to put me in the direction of where I want to go. So I need to be in control of my thoughts. I need to be in control of my emotions, so that I can create the life of my dreams. And, so I can take powerful action to create the life of my dreams. And I really feel like if in my 20 plus years of going down this whole personal development path, that's kind of what I took away. And I had pursued it and I had created this amazing life, but it had all been done from this place of control. And so while I had massive amounts of freedom, I had freedom, I was traveling the world. I was running 3 different companies. I had this beautiful Colombian girlfriend. I had massive amounts of freedom in my life, but I had built it from this prison. I had built it from this prison of control. And so I really wasn't truly free. And I felt like I was on this hamster wheel of accomplishment and achievement, and that I had to keep going, and it just kept driving me forward and driving me forward. And there would be times where I'd run into burnout, or there would be times where I would just get so depleted, but I felt like, no, I just got to keep going. And then, of course, I'm like, okay, then I got to stay positive, and I got to stay in a powerful state. So then I had learned all these tools that kept me on the hamster wheel. And what I later, and this is kind of some of these realizations that came in prison, and when prison happened, I realized that my external worth, my happiness, my satisfaction, my validation was externally rooted. Like, in order for me to feel happy and satisfied and validated, like, I had to be successful in business. I had to have this deal close, or I had to have, the successful relationship, or, be with this woman. And so it was constant, or, have dinner, or the server give the right service. And I was attached to having things my way. I had to have my way in order to feel the way that I wanted to feel. And so then there was this hamster wheel of constantly having more and more and more, because once I hit one certain level of achievement and success and got that validation of feeling, well, as soon as I got it, it was like, okay, well, what's next?
What's next, yeah.
Constant and constant and constant. And I had gotten on probably about 10 years, before all this happened, I had gotten on a spiritual journey. So I was starting to learn more of spiritual concepts. And, 2 years before I found myself in prison, I had learned this I love you practice. And so I had began to really, love myself and become the source of my own love. But I still had so much attachment to the things around me, to how all this created my identity. And I really feel like this experience of what I go through, and this is why I started working with other alpha males, or men who relate to themselves as alpha males, because there is a crisis. There is such a desire in this world right now for what I call the evolved alpha male, for men who have embraced, who are okay with being vulnerable, who have embraced their emotions, who can be a positive and powerful stand for the feminine. I was it's interesting, one of the kind of dynamics that I'm noticing right now is with this whole Me Too movement, just kind of taking a little side note, it can be very confusing for men, because they're like, oh, well, can I even show that I'm attracted to a woman now? Right. Like, can I, approach? Can I touch her? Like, what's appropriate? Like, I don't want to get called out. Like, there's this fear.
Yeah.
And so there's this time for men it's not about suppressing sexuality, but it's learning how to express yourself sexually as a man and create a safe space for women and for whoever that you're around, because women still want that. Women want a man that is fully present, right, and that isn't afraid of showing that attraction. But it's learning. So there's so many different dynamics about being vulnerable and about so the calling. So this is just one example in which there's a calling for this evolved alpha male to show up in society and create this space of protection and for women, but at the same time not losing your balls. And so this really is a journey. And so today I'm going to share with you guys the journey that I went through, and really what I see as the path for an alpha male, for the evolved alpha male, and how to really integrate the masculine and the feminine.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. I love it. Chris, dude, you just like went for it. I love it. So here's the thing. Like, I love that, we're talking about a path. Like, here's something that our audience can do. And I just want to remind everyone that there's no like one size fits all. So, Chris has his experience to come from. I have my own experience to come from. The Chris's have their own experiences to come from. You have your own experience, and what may work for us may not work for you. So just remember to keep that in mind, and find a leader and a mentor, someone who you resonate with. And that could very well be Chris, because he's very experienced. He's gone through a lot. He's like dealt with stuff. Everyone deals with stuff, and Chris is coming to the plate, even though a lot of people would be ashamed and broken and beaten down by something like going to prison or whatever it might be. Like, Chris is coming from this place of, hey, how do we own our alpha? How do we own our masculine and have it coexist in this world where I think there's a lot of like restrictions and things are getting tighter and tighter, and like we have to, be more and more boxed up or more careful, kind of more and more walking on eggshells. Now, I think that there's a benefit to that because it has us perform at higher levels when we are more careful, when there's less tolerance, right? When there's less tolerance for, oh, you could be this far or this far. Imagine like, airplanes and high-speed machinery, rockets. There's very little tolerance on those parts that are made because even the slightest bit of error could bring that thing to its knees. So we're living in this world of, hey, how do we get by, or how do we survive? How do we thrive, actually? How do we thrive in spite of all that stuff? And Chris is going to be sharing some gold with us. And before we get there, Chris, one thing I've been doing with all of the other people I've interviewed, the special guests today, is talking about this topic of hustle and flow. And I believe that might go into what you're going to be sharing today. But, hustle being like grind, do whatever it takes, kind of the burnout mentality, which you were just sharing about. You kind of got into that. And then the flow, more of the manifestation, creation, trusting, divine timing, that kind of thing. Like, how do you relate to both of those topics, and how do you deal with those in our current reality?
Yeah, that's great. And that's right on topic. And so, prior to prison, it was really just hustle. It was just drive, all mainly masculine energy. And then just kind of jump ahead and to specifically give you the whole context for this, the question that you just asked. In prison, I completely surrendered. I completely let go. I surrendered into life and into love. And in doing that, began to integrate the feminine, began to integrate those, surrender, intuition, more feminine types of energies. And then coming out of prison, really beginning to see an integration, because when I first came out of prison, I was like, okay, universe, I've surrendered to you. Now bring me everything that I have desired.
Right? Like, I've reached the mountaintop. I'm an ascended master.
Yes, right. And I had never lived life that way, because I was like, when there was something I want, boom, I'd go for it, make it happen, drive, create it. And now I was like, let me try life this way, because that's what I did. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm ready to receive. And guess what happened? Nothing happened. Because and I was like, oh, I still got to take action. And it took me 9 months to realize that, of like, okay, let me be open. Let me, receive. I was taking minor actions, but like, I was like, no. So I was like, okay, I got to bring back in the masculine. So then over a period of a year, 2016, really did a lot of integration of bringing back in masculine purpose, bringing back in all the stuff that I had learned in the past about productivity and drive and purpose and mission. But all of that now created and bringing forward from a very different place. And so the way I felt it and saw it was that the depth of my masculine purpose was arising out of the depth of my surrender. And so now, like, what's most important to me is as I now go about in creating life, and feeling like now there's a full integration of both the masculine and the feminine energies, what's most important to me, what I prioritize above all else, is self-care, loving myself and taking care of myself. Like, that is the most important thing. And then out of that space of depth of surrender arises the hustle, right? So out of the space of which flow arises, then hustle comes from that. Then the purpose comes from that. So that's how I see both of those two integrated. And prison was a very essential part of how that all came together.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I really hear that it's the foundation. In the last interview with Kevin and Devana, we were talking about that foundation of branding to have a business be successful. If you're not clear on what you are, who you stand for, who you are, the principles, the values, then it's not going to work. And if you have this place of flow and being in tune with who you really are, what you're about, the awareness, the presence, the sensations, right? Just being conscious and aware. From there, then you can take action and take massive action, take aligned, connected, inspired action. And that's like that hustle of, dude, I'm already clear. Like, now it's just go time. Now it's like, I see the vision. It's like right here. It's go time. I'm getting it.
Yep. Yeah, and what's
beautiful.
so beautiful now about the space in which my actions are now arising from, because in the past it was a constant drive. It was a constant, like, at the end of the day, I'd be like, I felt drained or I felt spent. And it was like a constant striving. I think if there was a word that defined it, it was striving. And now having my actions arise out of this place of surrender or out of this place of flow, my actions are inspired action.
Yeah.
And so while I may be tired at the end of the day, I may be physically tired, like it's a completely different energy now, because it's just like, boom, what's next? Boom, what's next? Boom, what's next? And being pulled forward, feeling pulled forward by the universe. And actually, here's what's another amazing different dynamic, because it's both. It's not one or the other. It's both at the same time, where you've so deeply integrated both sides that you don't even have to think about it. No. And what's so amazing, like in the past, just from a hustle place, I felt like I was constantly chasing life. Like in order to get somewhere, I was like, chase, okay, and finally I'd get it. And I'd be like, okay, all right, what's next? But now, from this place of having so deeply surrendered and having my actions arise out of that place of surrender, now I see life coming towards me. And it's so beautiful, because now I feel pulled forward by life, and at the same time life is coming towards me. So it's just like this incredible merging of energies, and it's incredible.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So tell us more about this path. Like, what is the path that we can create, that we can walk on, that we can, put a game plan, a strategy together to grow and evolve and become these alpha men who love and surrender, but also drive and create and build?
Yeah. And first, let me just talk about the end result of, like, where does this path lead, right? So the first is full alignment of self. And when I say full alignment of self, I'm talking about the mind and the heart and the balls, where everything is fully aligned. The second is that your purpose and your mission is arising out of this alignment. Because so often, actually first on the first part, prior to, becoming fully integrated and having these two energies integrated, we're like, our minds will be saying one thing, our hearts will be saying another thing, if we're even in touch with our hearts, and then our balls will be saying another thing. And as this has been, we're just like, we're all over the place, confused, energy spread. Yep. Right. So that's what the alignment brings, is like oneness of self, so that your thinking, your heart, your thinking, everything's fully aligned. Then from that place, it's getting how then that gets expressed into the world, your why, and what you're out to accomplish, having that get fully aligned with your authentic self. Wow. Another piece of this is really feeling grounded and unstoppable. Because when you're out of alignment, and there's all these different thoughts, and there's still and you haven't still yet felt fully all through your emotions, it's so easy to get stopped and to get held back, and then I got to drive forward, got to make it happen. So there's a space that exists where you actually feel unstoppable, and so another component of this is really feeling through, having felt so deeply and loving into yourself, where fear no longer is an obstacle to overcome. Because in the what I call the old masculine paradigm, there's this it's either fear is something to overcome, or this idea gets created about being fearless. So this is another big blowing, and I got to tell you, I think the whole fearless thing is bullshit. It's bullshit, because if fearless, it's like, oh, let me deny that I actually have fear so that I can pretend I'm fearless so that I can keep driving forward. But what's actually happening is that there's still fear in the body that's getting denied or ignored. Because the reality is that there's fear. We feel fear, but until we feel safe enough in our own bodies, we're going to avoid it. So when I was in prison, the men who acted the toughest and the meanest were the ones who had the most fear and anger. Yeah. But they were in denial of it, and it showed up as anger. And so in my experience in working with men is that the ones who many times act the toughest or have up the greatest walls or have to be the most macho are the ones who internally are hurting the most. And in order to feel safe, to begin to feel through that emotion, to let down those walls, it requires us to begin to really love ourselves. And actually, so that starts to getting into the process. So those are some of the end results of fully alignment, purpose and mission aligned, feeling unstoppable, and feeling that you can be fully yourself in all situations. So the journey or the path that I'm about to share with you, those are kind of the key end results.
Awesome, dude. Those beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So here is the path.
Okay.
The path first begins with embracing vulnerability. Now, in the old alpha male paradigm, vulnerability is viewed as weakness. And when I was in prison, prison's a hyper-masculine environment. Mm-hmm. And everybody there, because if you show vulnerability, you'll be viewed as weak, and if you're viewed as weak, then you could be taken advantage of. So people put up these walls of toughness. Mm-hmm. They take on prison names. They group together by their race to feel safe and to appear more tough. And then they make up all kinds of crazy rules about how to interact with each other. Mm-hmm. They call these prison politics. And for example, if somebody from my race is getting in fight with somebody from another race, I have to back up my race. Yep. And if I don't, I'm going to get beat up by my own race. And if I do, and I get caught, then no matter who started it, we're all going to get sent to the shoe, this is a place you don't want to go, to the hole. And so none of this made sense to me, because the way I saw it was, I'm a human being, you're a human being, we're both going through a difficult time, so I'm going to treat you with kindness and respect. See, I was prepped. This whole prison thing was part of my journey. Mm. And so I had already embraced and had been open to vulnerability. But I was in a place of alpha males who, like, vulnerability was weakness. Mm-hmm. And so the stepping stone, the transition is to when you can begin to see vulnerability as a source of strength. And so when that shift can occur, when vulnerability can be seen as a source, until it's going to be avoided. Yeah. And so that's the very first step, is for an alpha male making this journey, is first seeing vulnerability not as a source of weakness, but as a source of strength.
And that might be difficult because of all the programming that we've had and the programming that continues to exist in our society. So for everyone listening, watching, like, really, I think a lot of what Chris and even I eschew, how we live, is to be really open, right? To start opening and questioning and being curious about, like, what is really driving me? What is the perspective that I'm looking at life through? Is it serving me? And just, like, have that kind of play, and like come to play with this topic. Come to this topic with play, with curiosity, with, like, wonder. I wonder what it would be like. I wonder what that's like. And don't, like, box it, don't judge it, but just try it on. Just give it a shot and come to this and flow with it, right? Like, let go, let the armor off, I know how it always is supposed to be, because I have a business partner, and he's, like, always got to be right. He's always got to be right. And he has that masculine driven energy, and deep beneath that, there's tons of fear. There's tons of stuff that, is keeping him in that boxed place. So I just invite everyone who's listening to be willing to open up, right? And if vulnerable is, like, if that's a leap for you, open up. If even being open is a leap for you, be curious. I wonder what it's like. So those are some baby steps that you might be able to take to get to this place of testing out vulnerability and seeing what it might do for your life.
Yeah, that's great. So the second step is beginning to become the source of your own love. And here's what that means in an actual way that you can put this into practice right now. So there's an idea called your inner child. And there's a lot of different ways to look at this. So you could use the word inner child. For those of you that are familiar with the term inner child, you know a context for that. If you don't, another way to think about that is your innocence inside of the natural wonder, the person, the being of who you were before before society and life started happening to you, and you got conditioned into, and then your ego structure gets created to protect yourself, right? So who you were before the world began to just be the world on you. Mm-hmm. And so that's the other element, your innocence. Another way to think about it is your heart space, right? So you can think about your inner child, your innocence, or your heart space as all kind of different terms describing different aspects of this space that I'm going to get of how to become the source of your own love. And so this practice is to that space, you say the words, I love you. Mm-hmm. Now, in society and in life, we're taught, we know the power of saying I love you to other people and paying it forward and doing loving acts. And we know that how impactful that can be, but we're never really taught to give our own self-love, like to actually love ourselves. And here's the reality is we can't give what we haven't given to ourselves. And so when we learn, and so it's kind of this crazy cycle if you think about it, the way that we're generally taught about life. It's like, let me give love and then I hope to get it back. And then if I get enough back, then I'll have more to give. And it's this crazy cycle, right? And then you become codependent on life. And then you got to learn, well, how can I control, right? That's where control comes in. How can I control people and situations and relationships and business and things to play out so I get the love that I want so that I can give more? And for those of people, then there's people that aren't good at receiving. And then they get burned out, but they're constantly giving and giving and giving. And then I've never, because they're not open to receiving, and they also haven't learned how to give love to themselves. So this ends that whole cycle there.
Thank God. Wow. That's beautiful, man. And really what I hear there is there's this place that is within us that we can use to fuel ourselves in this lifetime. And we're always looking for these external fuel sources, whether it's even if it's like religion or, TV or friends or food, right? Like we could probably power ourselves on love to a certain extent, right? If we had that experience that we're full, that we're driven, like I love myself and just like, oh, that's right, I don't need food to comfort me. Like we could go days without food. But like imagine going an entire lifetime without love, like what that will do to someone's psyche and their soul. Like that's the nourishment that we need. Yeah.
You bring up a couple good points. So the practice is to your own inner child, your own self, your own heart space, say I love you. And so actually I'm going to invite you guys to all do this with me right now. So if you guys are there watching, so you can put your hand on your heart, you can close your eyes. And you're welcome to say this silently or out loud. You can just repeat after me. I love you.
Love you.
I love you.
I love you.
I love you. I love you. I love you so much.
I love you so much.
And that is the essence of the practice. And so for some of you that may have felt weird at first, well, it takes time, especially if that's new. It takes time for the subconscious to get to you loving yourself in that way. And Chris, I heard you say the words, I love myself. And I want to, you don't want to say I love me or I love myself, because really what that is that's loving who you think you are. That's strengthening that ego identity. And what this is, you can think about it, it's like your higher self or your parent self. Becoming the source of your own love for your inner child. Or you could also think about it like if you're an angel that has come into form into this body, or your divine master that's taken on form and you're going through this spiritual journey. Well, you're here to love you through this journey. You are the guide that you've been looking for.
Wow.
And so that's why it's I love you. Because when you say I love myself, you're just strengthening this identity that ultimately we want to integrate into the oneness of self.
Wow.
So I love you is the key words.
I love you. Yeah. Got it. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And when I was in prison, so the I love you is the second step in the plan, becoming the source of your own love. And the words I love you is actually the key. This is the key that freed me from this prison of control that I had built myself from all this personal development and positive mental attitude stuff so I can create the life of my dreams. This was the key that freed me from that prison of control.
Wow.
It was I love you. I love you is the key.
And what did you have to do? Like, how did you see this process unfold? Can you give our audience some ideas of what that might look like? I mean, was it as simple as just on a daily basis looking in the mirror and saying it? Was it like, closing your eyes? Was it, and then as that happened, what did you notice start to shift about your occurrence and perspective of the world?
Yeah. So, I had a lot of time on my hands in prison, right? So I would spend 2 to 4 hours a day meditating and doing this I love you practice.
Wow.
And I would just sit down. I wouldn't look in the mirror. First off, there really wasn't any clean mirrors, right? Because they didn't want you to break the glass because then, they don't want you to have glass. So they had this reflective metal. It was really kind of hard to see yourself. You just don't want to – prison's a horrible, horrible place. So I actually don't recommend looking in the mirror because – this is an internal. You want this to be internal. And if you're looking at yourself, then you're focused more on the external, like you. And we want to send this internally to your heart space, to your inner child,
Beautiful.
To your innocence. And then you said something interesting about food. And this practice, one of the addictions, food addiction for me has been one of the challenges that I've worked through. And I would emotionally eat. When things weren't going my way, then I'd want to eat. Yep. And what has really helped me in that cycle, of course, with getting proper nutrition guidance and working with a trainer, blah, 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 all that stuff. But even before all that, I would emotionally eat. And so this I love you practice, I'd be like, to the one who wants to emotionally eat right now, to the one who doesn't feel enough, I love you. To the one who feels not good enough, I love you. And so I would love those aspects of self that felt unfulfilled, or to the one who's feeling sad, or to the one who feels left out, or the one who feels lonely. I love you. So I begin to love those aspects of self that felt unfulfilled, which then food was the answer to help create that fulfillment of satisfaction. And so that really helped bring an end to that cycle. So this I love you practice is going to help you – will help you if you take it on in every area of your life, and this food is one very specific, especially if you've emotionally eaten, because that's something that's been a really big struggle for me.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And I hear, really being intentional about the focus of where you send this love to as well, because we might say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and, even be talking to our inner child, our essence, but still be like in our mind, in our, whatever subconscious mind, we're like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And we're like not looking at this part over here that we hate looking at and we despise.
Yeah.
But we can like say, you know what? I love you too,
Yeah, and so if you feel that, so if like that's a great example. And so if there's aspects of self that that you're hiding from, you can even say to the one who's hiding, who's put up that wall, I love you. So you may not even be able to get behind the wall, but love the wall.
Yeah.
And so the wall will melt, and then that gives you access to love those parts that are behind the wall.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome.
And it's even like, you can do this for doubt, to the one who doubts. I love you if self-doubt ever comes up. This tool is so powerful. It's like, and so, this 20 years of personal development stuff that I did, like, if I would say there's one most powerful tool that I've ever learned in all the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've spent, it's this.
Wow.
It's the I love you. And for some people, I recognized it immediately when I learned this, 6 years ago, and because of how much work I'd done and all the stuff I'd gone through, and it's like, boom, this one thing. But for people who haven't done as much, they might overlook its simplicity. Because but the wisdom is in the simplicity. So,
dude. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you something about having our dreams manifest, and you might be getting this in a second, but like when you were saying that, I was thinking about visualizing. When I do visualizing, when I meditate, yes, I can say I love you inwardly to my essence. And maybe that's like really what will make the biggest difference in terms of healing and, letting go of anything that's stopping me from achieving my goals. But I was also thinking about when we're visualizing of some goal that we want. Let's say it's earning $1 million, 6 figures, finding the person of our dreams, whatever, providing for our family. If we say I love you in that process towards that vision, I'm curious if you have any experience around that or what your thoughts are.
I haven't done that specifically, like saying I love you to that.
Yeah.
But what I would say, it's just so crazy what I'm learning about manifestation now. It's almost as if it's not almost as if this is how it's happening. Because in the past, when I would wanted something, I knew all these tools about intention and first of all, visualization's awesome. Definitely, it's a highly recommended. I do it. Yeah. But when things actually show up into your life, it's like, generally speaking, never when you want it or planned for it or it happened.
Right.
Now, in the past, I tried to put as much control around that with goals and plans and timelines and structure and the hustle, right? But now what I'm finding is that it's the more that I surrender and and surrendering to exactly what is right now, and being thankful for exactly what is right now, and being thankful for the stuff that I don't like and that isn't going my way, and moving in the direction of my highest dreams, that things now are coming into my life in a synchronistic, feels magical. For the left brain, we don't really like magic and synchronicity. We want purpose and definiteness. But I tell you, it's both sides.
Need both.
They're still tactical, and I got my plans and my lists, and I'm reading the books, and there's still that's going on. But at the same time, there's the surrender and the I love yous and the thank yous, and it feels like the more grateful, the more I appreciate exactly what is, the more deeply that I love myself, the faster things are coming into my life. Let me give you an example. So, this is kind of blowing my mind. The other day, I was really been doing a lot of work on how can I more effectively attract clients into my life on the consulting side. And so I thought, you know what? When I'm actually going through my call list and making these sales calls, as opposed to my thinking of being like, okay, I'm going to close them, or okay, I'm going to make this happen. Let me visualize myself working with them and seeing them succeed. And I made some calls, but then I started getting calls from people I hadn't even contacted and emails that were interested in what I was doing.
Wow.
And I was
energy.
Like, whoa.
It's the energy.
Yeah.
Not attached to, okay, this is how it's going to be with this person, but just the energy of, hey, I want this to happen, but I'm not attached to it, and I surrender to the process. But hey, this is the best path my mind knows how. But you got bigger plans.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
So the second stage, so we got embracing vulnerability. We got becoming the source of your own love, and each of these are journeys, right? So I mean, they're all, and while there may be a sequential process that I'm going to give you here, each and of themselves are a journey of their own.
Totally.
So the third is beginning the journey of surrender. Oh, this is so important for hustle and flow context. All right, so prior to this, I'm on this hamster wheel, constant hustling, codependent, that life has to play out the way that I want it to. So I keep trying to control everything, right? So that prison, there's nothing I have to do in prison. Like, there's nothing I can do.
Right.
I'm just there.
Right.
And this realization came to me. The realization, it's just so profound. This realization. The realization is that there is nothing that you have to do. Now that may try, like, some people might try to take on, or like, no, I have to do this. No. Like, if you, like, and first off, I didn't know I was going to go to prison. It was not something like, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong, and I ended up, I should tell the story another time, but I was in there, and I was like, fuck, I'm in prison. And so life can happen. You're not in control. And this was a big realization for me too, is that I'm not in control. Like I wanted to be, as much as I wanted to be in control, like I'm not in control. And I would suggest to you, who is listening to this, that as much as you try to be in control of your life and having things play out, you're not ultimately in control. You get hit by a car, something happen, like anything could happen. Hopefully never land up in prison, but it happened to me. It happens to other people. Like shit can happen. Yeah. And so the space, so the first, this thing, if you take this on, there's nothing, and I ask you to just sit with it. And I'm going to tell you what's going to open up if you do sit with this. From the space, and I sat in this for 19 months, if there's nothing I have to do, there's nothing. When I was able to fully step into that space of there's nothing I have to do, then I realized that there's everything that I get to do. See, that's the gift. That's the gift of that there's everything I get to do is only accessible from a space of there's nothing I have to do. Because as long as you feel like there's something that you have to do, then you'll always feel like you're controlled by that thing. Yep. And you're caught, and that's one of the bars of the prison of control, is that there's stuff that you have to do. There might be many bars of that, but that's part of that prison of control, that there's stuff that you have to do. So if you want to be fully free, take that on as an idea, meditate on it, sit in it. There's nothing that you have to do. And then if you sit in that space for a little while, not saying that you don't have to stop doing anything. Right. Oh, I love that song. I can't remember who it, but it's on. It's like, you don't have to move on to let go. I'm saying it wrong. I'll have to think of it another time. But Perfect. Basically, you don't have to stop doing what you're doing to step into the space that there's nothing that you have to do, is basically the point. Yeah, and I do want to speak to that for people who, you want to go out there and meditate. You want to, right after this talk, you want to meditate on this. You want to stop feeling like you have to be doing something. Another way to really get present to what you think that you have to do, and really how much is this controlling my life? Write down on a piece of paper, what do I have to do at the top? And then start writing down, what do you have to do? What do you think that you have to do? And then you can meditate on each one of those, or just get clear on paper what your subconscious automatically put down there. And be like, oh, wait, no, I don't have to do that. So you cross it out. I get to da-da-da-da-da-da. Cross it out. I get to da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you can meditate on that and live into that vibration of I get to. Yes. Yeah. Cool. And just so you know, I had to go at 2:50 here. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, so I'd say maybe there's 3 or 4 other steps here that I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of them right now, but I'll just briefly kind of give those to you. So beginning the journey of surrender, embracing all emotions, stepping into alignment, allowing integration to occur, then the codependency on life begins to end, and then mission, vision, and purpose become in full alignment. So that's the ultimate journey. And all of those are happening at different speeds and times for different people based on where they are in their journey. But that is the journey of the evolution of the alpha male. I love it, man. And basically what Chris just said is he's up to big things in the world. And thank you, Chris, for taking time out of your schedule to make this interview happen, even though you got a lot going on. Appreciate it. And there's so much more to dive into. And Chris is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of wisdom, and he's done the work, ladies and gentlemen. He's had to literally put these to practice in his life. So, Chris, I really acknowledge you as that guy who's living and breathing and being these principles. So, Chris, how do people stay connected with you? And, what do you want them really walking away from this interview with? What do you really want them taking action on? And what do you want them to do next? Yeah, so I'd say the 2 biggest things, three things to walk away from this with is 1, being open to embracing vulnerability, begin to let that settle in. 2, this I love you practice. Take that on, just do that every day. You can do it in your car, you can do it when you're driving. That, if there was one thing alone, that alone will make the biggest difference across the board. And then the 3rd thing is this whole idea of stepping into there's nothing that you have to do. So if there was 3 kind of action items that you can do that will make a tremendous impact in many different areas. And if you're interested in staying connected, so I work with men who relate to themselves, who know themselves as alpha males. And the work that I'm doing, is this. It's guiding you through this journey and this process. And I got to tell you, it's hard. It's challenging. It's hard work. And having a guide, I've been through it. I opened up in prison, like in the most violent and unsafe environment that I had ever been in. I did this work there. Wow. And it was like a consciousness pressure cooker. And so my own journey got greatly accelerated. And so now I've looked back and I see, man, I see this process. And so now I'm here to impact other men who want to take that same journey so that in the end, they can be in full alignment with themselves. They can have their purpose and their mission being expression of that full alignment. They can be authentically who they are in all different situations. Mm-hmm. And so if there is a man that, if you are listening to this and you're interested in working with me or exploring what that might look like, so there's a group. I have a group coaching program, and then I also have a really high-end mentoring program. And so to explore that, here's a gift. This is a gift to you guys. It's a 30-minute coaching session. We'll pick one area to dive into and really explore that. And so to get that, it's Calendly.com, CALENDLY.com/Chris Wise /30 MIN. And I think you're going to put that up there.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's on your bar. So for everyone watching the replay, you can check it right there. Calendly.com/Chris Wise /30 MIN. And it's also going to be in the show notes as well. So Chris, dude, you're the man.
Thank you. Yeah, Chris, thank you. I really appreciate you. I love your energy. I love what you bring. I am impressed by you. I want to acknowledge you for what you are bringing to the world. I mean, I was looking at the lineup and I was like, man, Jay Wong and all the other amazing people that you're bringing together and how you put together the themes. Yeah. And I'm just like, what you do is so amazing. So thank you for, and not just like the length of time that you put in, your commitment, your passion, your drive, how you bring it all together, the themes, the energy. I love it. I'm so appreciative to be a part of it. Dude. And I really appreciate you, man. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. This is just the beginning, baby. We're blasting off. Awesome, Chris. Dude, have the best day ever. Crush that workout, and we'll definitely see you soon, man.
Sounds good. See ya. Bye.
All right. Take care.